Well, hello there. My name is Eric. I am the host of Paranormal Highway. If this is your first time to my channel, then you need to subscribe now. If you're open-minded and you're willing to listen, then this is the channel for you. Over the weekend, I went to the 2022 Yakima Conference. And, you know, I'll tell you my true feelings about the event after one of the storytellers from the Yakima Conference, the SheSquatchers, one of my favorite people. I've interviewed them, and one of the most open-minded Bigfoot groups out there. Even though they're called the SheSquatchers, they're much more than just Bigfoot hunters. And one of the things I've always been impressed is how this group used to be a paranormal group that used their abilities to look for SheSquatch. And talking about being open-minded, I mean, about portals and everything. You got to listen to some of their stories. I got about 30 minutes of footage. And then after the footage, I want you guys to come back. Well, if you're here, then you're here. Then I'm going to explain to you on what are my thoughts about the whole conference. But like I said, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button, because I got a lot of great content on here. I even have interviews with the SheSquatchers on here, with other people from the Bigfoot community, because this community here is about all communities. UFOs, paranormal, Mandela effects, it doesn't matter. You all belong here because you're willing to listen to everything, not just, hey, we're a Bigfoot community. We don't believe in that fucking UFO shit, on that paranormal. Not on this channel. We will listen to it all. And we don't tell you guys what you should believe, what you don't want to believe. We'll just share it with you. And at the end of the day, the best part about my channel is up to you what you want to believe in. You won't be criticized at all. And we also have a great cartoon series that involves two human beings to save the world with a Bigfoot, an alien, Mr. Jones, and whatever adventures you run into. We love the aliens. We love the Bigfoots. And this cartoon is about different communities, kind of like joining forces in a certain way, you know. Bigfoot represents the Bigfoot community. Alien represents the UFO. So it's all mixed in one, saving the world, saving the planet. It's a great series. You guys got to check it out if you haven't seen it. Beyond that, here we go. We're gonna watch the SheSquatchers. I did the best what I can. I try to reduce the background best I can. You know, it's the best I could do. So after SheSquatchers, come back and I'll tell you what I think overall on the conference. All right, here we go.
Bonjour, Indigenous. Jordan, 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 Indigenous. Shiva, Kamagoke, Indigenous. Militi, Nilota, Niwich. And when I said there was a traditional Ojibwe greeting, because I am an enrolled tribal member of the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota, and that is how we begin our speaking on the reservation back home. So here I am on the reservation, and I gotta follow those things here. I just told you my name, I welcomed you, and I said thank you for having us. And I said my spirit names that I was given in sacred ceremony, as well as where I'm from and my clan, which is Eagle Clan. And I'm very, very happy and proud to be here and be invited to the affirmation. They get very good to us. So thank you to Mel and Trina and everybody on the board and the council. And you know, yesterday we even got to go visit the tribal council and visit with them. So that was it's been just so wonderful. It's been wonderful here. So thank you for having us. I've come all the way from the state of Minnesota. That's a long ways from here. And my teammate's Jenna, she lives in West Fargo, North Dakota, which is a sister city from the city where I live in Moorhead. It's separated by a river, which is the state line. And Tammy Treadwell, she completes our trifecta. And she used to live in Gary, Minnesota, which wasn't that far from me. And a few years ago, life changes happened, and she moved to the state of Virginia. So we still get together, and we still go out looking for Bigfoot together, and we just meet wherever we're going to be. And we're just so blessed to be able to go to these Bigfoot conferences, and people want to see what we found and hear the stories of what we've experienced and see the things that we found. So thank you for coming today, and then everyone, thank you for welcoming us and being so grateful. We're just so grateful. So, first thing, this is my team, my beautiful ladies. SheSquatchers, a team formed in 2015 when I was interviewing Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist you see all over TV. He's at the International Cryptozoology Museum in the state of Maine. And I was interviewing him for my radio show. I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I'd maybe seen 3 episodes of Finding Bigfoot on TV in passing. Honestly, I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never thought about it long enough to think of whether or not I thought it was real or not. I was just like, yeah, whatever. And when I ended up in the same place that he was at a Paracon, he sat down with me and gave me an hour interview, and he educated me about what is Bigfoot, and he assured me that there was Bigfoot in my home state of Minnesota. And I did not believe him. Because I grew up on the reservation line, in the woods. We grew, raised, and hunted everything we ate, except for flour and yeast and chocolate chips, because that's a necessity. But we were poor, so we were living organically before organic was even cool. So living organic, you don't have to be rich, you just have to grow and fetch your own stuff. Anyway, so Lauren Coleman told me that his idea, he thought it was the recipe for success in finding and interacting with Bigfoot, to get women to go into the woods without men, dogs, or guns. He thought this was the recipe for success in getting Bigfoots to come in a little closer and get a little look-see at some ladies out there that probably didn't have anything harmful for them. Sorry, my voice is harsh today. I talked way too much last night, and this is what happens. Anyway, so he assured me that there was Bigfoot there, and I kind of took that as a challenge, and I said, all right, I'm going to find some ladies, and we're going to go out and give this a try. Now, besides just being a curious person who grew up in the woods in the valley, I also am sensitive to sensing other things, and people in the regular world would call that psychic, but in the native world, we could just call it gifted or sensitive. And so I always had that sense, and I had been using that sense for years, helping with missing persons cases and locating people who were missing. And sadly, it was always the ones who were already dead that I was finding. But that wasn't fun work for me. But then I started doing work with the paranormal work with the children, and sometimes native children's families would have to come in and work with them if they were gifted and they didn't have a relative with them that was still with them that knew how to teach them how to navigate that. So they call me in and I could work with their family and with the child and teach them how to navigate that. And so they could feel comfortable with what was happening to their child. So in addition to just being a curious person who was loving the woods, I always had those extra senses, and I thought, hey, if I'm finding missing people, why not use those senses and try to find Bigfoot? Because Bigfoot is missing too, right? So, in addition to Lauren Coleman's idea of living in the woods without men, dogs, or guns, we also can use our psychic senses to see if we can sense Bigfoot. And we do that using different ways. So we're an all-female team. That's our all-female Bigfoot experiment. So we are doing that. And we have, most of us on our team are animal communicators, but some of us are stronger at some of those gifts than others. And so I'm going to have Tammy explain to you about animal communication. And Tammy?
Is this on? Okay, it works now. I'm so sorry, Jen, that your voice is kind of gone.
Take it away, Tammy.
Thank you.
Okay, well, animal communication, it may be different for all different people. Most psychics, use their mind to communicate with animals, and that is fine. I can do that also. But I can also speak with my voice in English to animals, and they understand what I'm saying. I don't necessarily, understand them if they're speaking to me in their language, but we understand each other, and I have actually rescued many a bird from an enclosed situation where they got trapped. One time I was with a group of friends, and we were doing some primitive camping in Minnesota on a lake, And we took a boat across to this island that had some old cabins from the 50s. And they didn't use them anymore. It was an old resort. But we walked inside these cabins, and there was a wood duck that had been trapped. I don't know how long. There was plenty of feathers and scat. And so I just communicated to the duck, and I'm like, hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to pick you up, and I'm going to take you outside, and I'll set you down and you can go. And they're like, oh, you can't. Then the kids are like, it's going to bite you. So I just walked over to it and said, I'm not going to hurt you. I picked it up and I brought it outside and I set it down. And it kind of looked back at me and then it flew away. So I've rescued ducks, hummingbirds, all types of birds. And I just use my words to communicate with them, but I know that they can understand me. And I can also touch an animal and know if it's sick and where it's sick. It feels hot to my hands. I can pet a dog, and I'm like, oh, and I'll touch their ear, and their ears, and I'm like, do they have mites, or do they have an ear infection? And sometimes, their heads are hot, and they have tumors and things like that. Those, I don't like to tell people, hey, I petted your dog and it's sick. I was like, you might want to take it into the vet for a checkup, just saying. But yeah, that's how I communicate with animals. And I know that some psychics just communicate with their minds and some with their words, but I'm able to just talk to animals and they understand me. I guess that kind of makes me a Dr. Doolittle, huh?
You said it, not me.
How did I get about it?
Thank you, Tammy. So this here is a picture. Isn't she wonderful? And her voice isn't cracking like mine. So this here is a picture, some pictures of a white-faced hockey monkey who lives at the Red River Valley Zoo in Fargo, North Dakota. And when I first went there with my mom on Mother's Day quite a few years ago, I was looking at this white-faced hockey monkey, and he was just having a hard time. He had what looked like a hazelnut in his hand, and he was smacking it on his hand until it hurt so bad that he had to switch hands, and then he was smacking on his other hand trying to crack his nut open. And I felt so bad for him, and I was like, Mom, this is just breaking my heart. This little monkey is hurting himself trying to open this nut. So I said, I'm going to try to talk to this monkey. And my mom's like, okay. She was used to me doing stuff like that through having all these years with me. And so I go over pretty far away. He's in a glass enclosure. And I went pretty far away from where he was because I didn't want it to be where there were no people. And so I was standing there by the glass by myself, really far away from him, kind of by the bathroom door. And I started to try to communicate with him. And I was picturing him hitting this nut on a rock. And I was like, do it this way, do it this way. And I was trying to show him how to open that rock, how to open it by hitting it on a rock instead. And he was just kind of continuing to do what he was doing. And all of a sudden he went, and he looked at me, and he just turned his head and looked at me. And he threw the nut down on the ground, and he comes scampering over to the glass where I was, which is probably about 15 to 20 feet away from where he originally was. And he smacked himself up against the glass. His little hands were there. You can see my finger on his hand on the glass. And he was just started licking the glass. And so this is really funny. My mom's like, okay, so you communicated with the monkey. What did you do? He didn't change what he was doing with the nut. He just threw it on the ground and came over to see me. So I think it was very interesting for me to have that experience with him. It was maybe 4 years till I went back there again. And I said, another time on Mother's Day, my mom wanted to go to the zoo. So I went, and I said, all right, Mom, I want to see if my monkey is still there. And so we go there, and I go back over to where there's no people, and it's pretty far from where he is. And this time he's sitting on the ground in the back. He keeps looking for a minute because that's how long it took the last time. This time it was like less than 10 seconds, and he went, and he comes scampering over again, right up against the glass and licking the glass. So that was my little experiment on, can I communicate with monkeys? And so he is forever known as my little monkey boyfriend because he's in love. Every time I would go into the bathroom, go into that building, use the bathroom, he would chasing me along the window. So I just want to take a moment and talk a little bit about some footprints that we found. But the picture in the person in this picture died about a week ago. And she used to be on the SheSquatchers team, and her funeral is today. So bear with me on that one. Her name is Nikki Jordan, and she died last Sunday. She's a Red Lake tribal member. She's from my reservation, so we were here, so we didn't get to go to her funeral, but we just wanted to give a moment for her. Thank you. Jenna, do you want to talk about this? No? Okay, so we were up on my reservation, and Nikki was driving us because when I want to use my senses, my psychic senses, I don't feel like I should be driving a big vehicle because I'm not fully aware of the physical side of things. I'm trying to be aware of other energies and other things. Sorry. Anyway, so Nikki was driving, we were going from one area to another, and she was driving me to a part of the reservation that I had never been to before, because our reservation is 840,000 acres in northern part of Minnesota. And we were going to go up to the seated lands, the lands that the tribe gave up, seated, but most of our reservation is unceded, 840,000 acres. And so she was driving us up there, and we were going about 55 miles an hour, and I was asking to feel the energy of Bigfoot. And I had successfully done that before. I am a Reiki master teacher. I feel energy as a physical sensation in my body. It's not just a good feeling or a good vibe. I literally feel this in my body. And so I was asking to feel the energy of Bigfoot. And we're driving along 55 miles an hour, and I scream, "Wait, stop the car!" And there's something back there in that woods. I felt it, and it was like that vibration in the pool to the right. And I said, "There's something in that woods back there, right there." And so she's like, "Is there even a road?" I said, "I don't know, I just felt it." So she stops the car, she turns around, and we go back. And we find a little road that goes back into that woods. And behind that woods was this gravel pit that none of us knew was there. And right there on the hill, on the gravel hills, we see these footprints going straight up, big as day. And this hill was literally this steep. Literally that steep. I didn't climb it. I didn't even try to. But that's Nikki. Jenny climbed it, and Nikki climbed it. And we did cast a couple of footprints in the middle there. And that was Nikki laying on the side of the hill waiting for the casting material to dry. And so that is a picture that Jenna took from the top of the hill. And you can see Nikki's feet and her right there, and her hand on the right side of the picture in the middle there. And that little dark blob at the bottom, or the top of the picture, I should say, that's me. That's me standing there looking up at them. And Nikki went along, and she measured out the footprints and the distance between them. Some of them weren't, it had slid a little bit, so some of the footprints were larger. The largest one was 24 inches, but we think it happened as an 18-inch foot, because that was the smallest of it. And when we showed this to Bobo from Finding Bigfoot, he looked at these pictures that we had, and he says, "Wow," he says, "that's a really steep hill." And I said, "Yeah," I said, my teepees, they would take a step, and they were on their hands and knees, and they would literally slide back down. And so you can see how much mess they made trying to get up and down next to those footprints there to the right of Nikki. And you can see Nikki sitting on the hill there in the right picture, and I'm standing on the ground. And there is another picture on the left from the top of the hill. You can see Nikki's hand beneath at the top of the picture, I guess, but it's looking down. But these footprints had toes, and they were big, and Bobo from Finding Bigfoot said, "Well, that hill's way too steep for that to have been a bear or a human. That had to be a squatch." And I said, "Well, I think it was, because I was led there by the feeling of that energy, and that is right there." So Yes, Jenna's going to talk about this, but so I'm always looking for certain things when we're traveling, and Jenna's just used to me going off on a tangent. I'm into petroglyphs and ancient rock carvings and native art, pictographs and petroglyphs, and I'm always looking for places that have pictographs or petroglyphs that look like circles within circles or spirals, because that means something to me. And so I want to visit those places. But they're hard to find online, so you just kind of, if you see there's petroglyphs, somewhere you have to go look and see if they have their ghost up there. So Jenna's up at the top of the hill, and I yell, Jenna, where did the footprints go?
I'll take it from here, Jen. So I get to the top of the hill after climbing very, very hard. This extremely, very, very steep hill, like Jen said. It really was like this. It was very hard to get up. So I get up at the top, and I'm looking around. The first thing I'm doing is I'm seeing a flat surface, and I'm thinking this is really strange, seeing a flat surface. But I see, footprints kind of going like this, but they weren't any kind of footprints that, they were like different animal and just nothing really. But then in front of me, when I turned around, there were 3 circles. Now inside these circles, it did look like something, almost like a crop circle kind of thing, where it was smashed and almost like a frequency had smashed it and twisted it around. So it was all of the stems and different things like that were all down. Everything else around the circles stood right up. So I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is chance. Jen! I yelled down to Jen because I finally found circles within circles. I had been looking forever and she was so excited. I said, Jen, I found something. And she said, take a picture. So I quick grabbed my camera and I took a picture and I sent them down to her. And
sure enough, there were circles within circles, and it's kind of hard to see in this photograph, but seriously, they were really intricate, and you can see the weeds in the top of the photograph where they're standing up, but wherever these circles were, the weeds were crushed down, and they were flat. And they were perfect, 3 circles, and then there were circles within circles within circles within circles.
And I have to say, they were just the same size in between each other. I mean, like they were the same, as many inches apart from one another. So they were.
It was just amazing. And here's the thing about a gravel pit. You can't walk up that thing and not leave a trace, right? You cannot. It's really messy. You're gonna leave your mark behind. So I was sure that we would find where those footprints went to when they got to the top of the hill, but they ended at these circles and they didn't descend the hill. So that was really, really strange to me. And what did that mean to me? I had been interviewing elders from my tribe and from the neighboring reservations, which were also from my tribe. Minnesota has 9 Chippewa tribes plus the Red Lake Valley Chippewa Indians. We didn't join the Chippewa tribes because we didn't sign the treaty, and I think it was 114 years ago we didn't sign the treaty to cede the land. So we didn't join the Chippewa tribes. But there's also ones in Michigan and Wisconsin and North Dakota and all the way up above those areas above the Great Lakes. That's all Ojibwe people. So I've gotten to talk to a lot of different elders about this. And what certain elders were telling me was that Bigfoot is a physical being, and that he could walk between the worlds. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And they said, well, okay, he can travel instantaneously, physical travel, just by a thought, moving through the ground. And I was like, okay, so wait a minute, are you saying like he's running through a tunnel really fast to get from one place to another? And she's like, no. She says they travel physically from one place to another instantaneously with a thought, but through the ground. And I was like, okay, so you're talking like a portal of some kind. And she's like, yeah, you could call it that. And I was like, okay. And so the reason why I was always looking for petroglyphs and pictographs that look like circles within circles is because that's how those were drawn by the ancient native peoples. They were drawn with these circles within circles. So I always thought, hey, if I can find a place where they were carved into stone, this might be like a doorway of some kind. I want to check this out. So Jenna, who's been on many adventures with me, and even before we were looking for Bigfoot, I was interested in this. So she was well aware of my strangeness, so she was very excited to find something with circles within circles, but it wasn't ancient, it was new. And how come those footprints disappeared there? You know, I take everything that the elders tell me sacred, and I put it in my little information bag. But I have this rational mind to me that also says, well, I kind of need to see it to fully grasp that. I hold the information, I soak it up like a sponge, and I hold it sacred, and I pass it along. But for me to fully grasp it, I kind of need to see it. And I think everybody's kind of like that. They've got that rational part of their mind that goes, okay. I need to see evidence of that. And this was one of those things that went, you know, the footprints disappeared there, and they didn't descend the hill anywhere, any direction. They disappeared there at these circles. And the elders are telling me that Bigfoot can travel through the ground instantaneously with a thought, through something like a portal. And how did they draw portals? Circles within circles. So wouldn't that be kind of how they showed up? In circles? That's where my mind went with that. So, again, I'm from the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians, which everyone else calls Ojibwe, but that is our formal name of the reservation. And we have the 7 sacred teachings of the grandfathers. And they are all, each one, represented by an animal that represents that teaching. And so, if we start at the right and we go left, we've got respect, which is represented by the buffalo. We've got courage, which is represented by the bear. We've got wisdom, which is represented by the beaver. We've got love, which is represented by my clan, the eagle. And we've got humility, which is represented by the wolf. And we have truth, which is represented by the turtle. And last but not least, we have honesty, which is represented by Bigfoot, Gitchisabe in the language. And when I asked, why is Bigfoot representing honesty? And they said, he lives the most honest life. He lives true to himself and to his connection to the earth and to all things around him. And that is why he represents honesty. Now these teachings are so old. These are like the 10 commandments from the tribe, from my tribe. Okay, that's how sacred they are. The 7 sacred teachings from the grandfathers. And these 7 sacred teachings, and the animals themselves, also represent clans. And so our tribe has the 7 clans. So I just want to say, in reference to that if Bigfoot wasn't real, why would these old sacred teachings, represented by very physical animals that you and I can all observe, right? The eagle, the bear, the beaver, all these that we can observe. Why would they have honesty represented by Bigfoot if Bigfoot wasn't real? Doesn't even make sense, does it? So sometimes when you go and you talk to the native people, if you can get some elders to talk with you, share their wisdom with you, it's so enlightening. It's so enlightening. So again, this is another representation of Sabe. Sabe means honesty in the Ojibwe language. So the Gitchisabe means the great big honesty. And that's the name that there are many names in the Ojibwe language, because the Ojibwe language is a descriptive language to describe your interaction with something or someone, and he was the honest one. He's the great big honest. He's also known as the great big hairy man who was standing over there watching. And this here is a picture of a petroglyph. If you type in the Google search and you type in petroglyph portal, this is one of the pictures that will come up. So this is how they used to draw them on the ancient rock carving. And if you see, it circles within circles, and it just makes sense to me that they would draw them the way they appeared. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about remote viewing. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Controlled remote viewing was actually kind of developed by the CIA. And they were using it to see if they could spy on other places and look in places that nobody would want them to look. And they used it to find missing airplanes that had gone down. And controlled remote viewing is so controlled with the moderator that for me it's a little too controlled, because I'm a natural, I just ask questions and things just appear to be in response to my question. Where controlled remote viewing is often, they have no idea what they're looking at, and they're just asked to describe it by a moderator. So for me that was it demands too much dependence on a third party. It's not fast enough for me. I get very, frustrated having to deal with somebody else's thought process when I have my own questions that I want to ask and follow them as fast as I can. So I started doing what we are calling geographic remote viewing. And what that is we're looking at satellite imagery, Google Maps, the actual pictures from the satellites looking down on the Earth. We're using Google Earth as well. And we're looking at locations and scanning these locations. So I did this for missing people, okay? And when I do that, I'm asking, is this person here? And looking for this person, is this person here? And what I see on the image changes in reaction to the question I'm asking if there is something there that I'm asking about, okay? So when I started to do this for Bigfoot, I was like, is there Bigfoot here? And I'm scanning over pictures of satellite imagery, like Mel had explained to you before when he handed me his phone. And I'm asking, is there Bigfoot here? Is there Bigfoot here? Is there any Bigfoot evidence that we can collect here? And I remember that day that Mel approached me at the Sasquatch Summit over in Ocean Shores, Washington, and he says, hey, can you remote view for me? And I just took a moment and I looked at him and I sensed his energy and I was like, yeah, I can remote view for you. And because I don't do that for everybody, because I just don't feel like everybody needs to know exactly where Bigfoot is. What will they do with that information? I'm not sure. But Mel had really good energy and he had a good heart and I could sense that, but I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for you. I didn't know anything else about him, just, yeah, I can do that for you. So he asked me, he says, what do you need? And I said, I need to be looking at a device, at Google Maps. I need to look at the area from above and be able to zoom in and out and look around it. What do you want to know? So he opened his phone up to Google Maps and he brought it to an area, a forest, and he just handed me his phone and he sat next to me and watched me do my thing. It's kind of boring, really. Just looking at my phone, zooming in and out. And I was asking the question, anything Bigfoot here, anything Bigfoot here? And then all of a sudden I started to see Bigfoot, and so I zoomed in, kept asking, and then I started to see this Bigfoot leaning up against this tree. I said, hey man, I'm seeing a Bigfoot leaning up against this tree here. He's like, oh, okay. And he really didn't react, like there's no feedback there, if he was connected to that or not. And then he took the phone away and he took it to another area and had me looking there. And I said, okay, I zoomed in and out and anything Bigfoot here, anything Bigfoot here. And then I started to see these native people. And it was a man and a woman and a Bigfoot. And the man and the woman, they were wearing really old native clothing. And I'm talking about hides. They were wearing clothing made out of hides. And they were with bone or teeth on them. No buttons or ribbons or anything like that. And she was wearing a hat. And it was like this cone-shaped hat. And I was like, okay, I don't know this hat. And it kept showing me like close-ups of this hat she was wearing. And I was like, I don't understand what that means. I've never seen this kind of hat before. And I'm telling Matt that she's wearing, or I'm telling Mel she's wearing this hat. I don't know what the hat means, but it means something. I don't know what it means. But what I am saying here is there's the man, and there's the woman, and there's the Bigfoot. And they're standing so close together that their arms and their shoulders are touching, and they're all smiling. So that tells me that they were together here, they were friends here. They were definitely at least trading goods or something, and there's no fear, because if there was fear, she wouldn't be standing there, the man would be standing there. But if they felt comfortable enough to have the woman touching the Bigfoot, and they were all smiling, so I guess they were together there. And he's like, okay. Again, not much feedback, and then his wife, the lovely lady over here, she comes over and says, oh, I'm gonna go over here now and looking for me. And he says, oh, this is so cool. She zoomed right into the tree where we saw Bigfoot leaning against, and said she saw Bigfoot leaning against that tree. I was like, oh, feedback, that's good. So that was good. And it wasn't until like a few weeks later that I was talking about online, and I said, hey, I saw him on TV. He was an Expedition Bigfoot. I don't know if you know that. I'm like, yeah, I didn't know you were in that show. I saw him on TV. And so then he started talking to me about that place where I'd seen the native man, the native woman, and the Bigfoot together. Oh, I forgot to tell you. When I kept saying I don't understand the hat changed into a hat that I didn't understand. It changed to a fancy lady's hat from the mid-1800s. I said, okay, so, and then it changed right back. So I'm like, okay, so it was like from the mid-1800s, I think. Because that's like the hat that I saw that I do understand and changed right back. So Mel sends me a picture online of this hat. I'm like, that's the hat. He says, that's the traditional hat that our people, the ladies wear that. And I was like, that's awesome, because that's the hat that I saw that I didn't understand. And he says, you know, our people used to live with Bigfoot in our settlements, in our camps. And they were together there. And that, you know, I was identifying a place where they had been living together. And that's really cool, because sometimes I can tune into things that happened before. And I'm always given information to show me that this was from before. Or I'm seeing something that's right now, or I can just ask, is there something here right now? And then I'll see if there is something there, I'll see the picture change. Now what's cool is my two teammates here, Tammy and Jenna, they're both psychics and they have their own gifts, and you know, so I was like, hey, let's try to do this together. So we talked about how this was done, let's practice. So whenever I would see something, I would drop a GPS pin right next to it, not directly on it, so they could still see exactly the spot I was looking at, because the pin will cover it up. And so I'd send them the pin and I'd say, hey, can you just look at this and tell me what you see at this location? And it's really neat, because there was one time that Tammy and I were about to go to a spot in Minnesota. And so we were reviewing these woods in Minnesota. And I see something I've never seen before. I see a Bigfoot with a mountain lion and like a pet. And I was like, that's weird. So I dropped the pin next to it. I said it to Tammy. I was like, hey Tammy, check out this woods. Check out this area right here by this pin. Tell me what you see. Tammy, what did you see?
I saw a Bigfoot next to a mountain lion.
And did we go into that woods?
We did not. I don't want to see the mountain lion. I don't mind the Bigfoot, but I don't want the mountain lion.
We did go there and we looked into the woods from the road, and that was I don't play with big cats, I just don't.
Unless we're in Nebraska.
Well, we did have a big cat experience in Nebraska. We did. I didn't say run, I said get to the car, and they ran. We did. And it was very muddy because we had downpours the night before. It was so muddy, and so here's me trying to keep up, and I'm slipping and sliding, and I'm like, oh gosh, it was awful. I could have
Making
been.
it sound very serious. We get to the car immediately. I don't know.
Yep, there was a big cat.
Yeah.
And we were in this campground, well, it was a state park. We were at Indian Cave State Park in Nebraska. And we had gone there before, and I'm like, this feels squatchy. But we didn't have our camping stuff with us, so the next time we planned, the next time we came through Nebraska, we were gonna plan to stay there and bring all of our camping stuff. And so we did. And you have to camp there to be in the park overnight or after dark, because the park closes if you're not camping there. And so we go. And we set up our camp. There is nobody else there because it was pouring so bad the night before. We were supposed to actually be camping the night before, but it was pouring so bad that we couldn't. We just ended up in a hotel because we couldn't set up our tent in the pouring rain. And so we waited till the next day and we went there and everything's mud. Everything is just, oh, it was gross. But we were the only people there at night. It was awesome. And so we go up to where the Indian caves are. And they actually have us in their petroglyphs up there. That's why I wanted to go there in the first place. And so they have the stairway that goes up to where the Indian caves are. And it's dark out, there's a river flowing there. And you can hear nothing other than the river flowing. And it's just completely a silent night. And my teammates start to walk up these stairs. And all of a sudden, there's noise. What was the noise?
Green acorns being thrown and landing in front of us. They didn't hit us, they landed right in front of us. And each step that we took closer, another one would land in front of us.
Green acorns. And they were landing right at their feet. And whatever was doing this, it wasn't like dropping them all over. It was just at their feet. They're not hitting them.
I was just gonna mention, these were curving acorns. They were literally curving. They were not dropping like Jen just said. They were being thrown, they were being curved. So we knew they were not just dropping.
And what was really funny, when they went up there, they continued going up anyway. And when they came back down, they were getting pelted with these acorns the whole time at their feet until they got off the stairwell, and then everything went silent again. Everything was so quiet. So something definitely was saying, don't come up here. And I don't think it was all those spiders, because there's a lot of spiders up there.
Gross spiders in Nebraska. Big spiders in Nebraska.
So this is a picture of a structure that is in Indy. We found it in Indiana, and we were there visiting a Bigfooter. His name is Greg Yost, and he's known as Squatchman, if you've ever heard of Squatchman. So we were on our way back from an event, and hey, I sent him a message and said, hey, do you know a good place for us girls to camp on the way through Indiana? He's like, yeah, you should go to my hotspot. I'm like, really? I just met you. You're going to tell me where your hotspot is? He's like, yeah. So he tells me how to get there, and I'm like, this is great. Because he had showed us at this event, he showed us some pictures of Bigfoot that he had taken, and they looked pretty good. So I was excited, we were excited to go there. So we get there, and he meets us there, and we set up our tent, and he goes and gets firewood and makes a fire for us. And then he took us out to show, we gave a gift in his gifting stump where he leaves gifts for Bigfoot. We left some food and tobacco, because that's the way my people always leave tobacco for Bigfoot. And then we went, he showed us around his woods, and it was getting dark. It was awesome. It was awesome. And so he showed us the structure that he found by a creek bed. And he says he thinks that they made this because it's like some type of a hunting blind where you could just sit in there and wait for the deer to come by and have a drink and then jump out and get him. And Jenna looks at that and she goes, that's not big enough for a Bigfoot.
I didn't say it so rude. I was just like, I don't think that's big enough for a Bigfoot. With a smile. No, I'm kidding.
How tall do you think Squatchman is?
Oh gosh, he's gotta be.
A Squatchman is probably over 6'2", 6'3".
I think he's more like 6'6" or about there. He's really tall. Anyway, he's like, oh yeah, and he swings in there and he sits down and there's plenty of room for Jenna. It looks a lot smaller than it really accommodated. So there's a picture of Jenna in there. If you can see her little face.
I do have to say, anytime there is any structure, I'm the first one to get in there. Asking, permission, being kind, making sure that we're not disturbing anything, thank you. But yeah, we're very respectful when we are doing this, by the way. We're not just destroying anything. We make sure we're not breaking anything when we're going in there. But yeah, if there's a structure, I'm the first one. Well, now I'm not the first one to raise my hand because Tammy thinks she's more, what was the word?
Brave, ambitious, daring.
Oh my gosh, did you just hear that?
She didn't say fearless.
Oh, I guess I'm still fearless. You can have those. Oh, I'm fearless. Oh no. Anyway, we're a good team. We have fun together.
Okay, so on to my next story.
Well, did you guys like that? I hope you did. I hope you did. Now, what are my thoughts about the conference? I go to a lot of Comic Cons. I love Comic Cons. And Comic Cons has thousands of people. I love it. I love talking to the people who go to these, you know, people behind the booths that sell things, you know, interviews things, you know, they're just, I love Comic Cons. So I don't go to a lot of Bigfoot conferences, a lot of that kind of stuff. There's not really a whole lot of Bigfoot conferences that come here, but there was one in Yakima. So what are my thoughts? I went there, and now if you go to this conference to hear speakers just speak, I mean, if that's your number one thing, then hey, it's a home run for you. They all go up there on stage, they all talk, they tell you your stories, and that's the main reason why you're there, just to hear the stories. Then yes, it's a very successful con. And I enjoy listening to the speakers. I really did, you know. But one of the things I really love to do is talk to the people, right? The thing is about the conference that I wish they would do a little different, because you had the main stage, right? You got the main stage where they talk, but they have these booths within close distance to the stage of like the other speakers, like selling their stuff. The problem that I have was, since the speakers are talking on stage, it's a little darker, you couldn't really truly have conversations with the booths, or otherwise, you know, you might interrupt the main people on stage. You know what I mean? So I couldn't do an interview with the people, you know, because then I'm blocking other people from watching the main stage, because there are seats all around. So for things I like to do, to talk to the people and talk to them while they're not on stage and talk to regular people, I couldn't do that. Now there was some like selling booths outside of it, but they weren't really like, some of it was some cool Native American stuff, because it was at a casino, alleged casino. So, you know, I didn't get to do what I really love to do, is sit there and do raw interviews with people, because I couldn't interrupt the show. And you know, that was the worst part. I wish I could, but I couldn't. But if you're just there for the speaking engagements and all that, then it's for you. For me, it was a little weak on the part where I couldn't really talk to the people. I couldn't set up my camera. The only thing I could have done was sit and record them speak. So overall, you know, I give it a B for the speakers going on stage. But I can't give it an A, because I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do, the interviews on the side and all that. I was trying to be a speaker, but nobody got back to me. Nobody wanted me to be it. And you know, I would have loved to be more interactive with the crowd. You know, I would be walking around the crowd, talking to them. That's what I like to do. So overall, it was a fun experience. Would I go back to another one? I guess it might. It depends on who's there, and if I can meet up with people. You know, I hope they have another Bigfoot conference in Forks. I want to try that out. I want to see how they do it, set up the booths. My opinion, what they should do next year, Yakima conference, is have your stage, but maybe instead of having like the booths of the people who are speaking, selling stuff there, maybe have like a museum type of stuff, you know, look at the statue of a Bigfoot or you know what I mean, pictures or something, and have them sell their items outside the stage. So when you go buy something, you know, you get to talk to them and maybe interview them, and you know, and I think it would sell more stuff because there's more of this interaction, you know. But beyond that, I had an overall good time. There's some things I wish I was able to do and I couldn't, but I still had a fun time. And like I said, if you're not subscribed to my channel, I don't know why the hell not. You should. You should be fucking subscribed way before we even got to this point. But beyond that, we're the most open-minded channel. Please subscribe, and if you want to be a guest one day on my channel, just email me. Simple email. But beyond that, guys, have a great day. And you know, I want everybody to have peace, have excitement, and enjoy life. That's the main thing. your family, enjoying life, getting out in the woods, looking up for UFOs, you know, just looking around, looking for ghosts, being kind. That's what we're about. So beyond that, guys, have a great